The Middle East is in flames. America and Israel keep pounding Iran, but Iran's fighting back with its allies. Who's going to win? Who can win? And how long will it go on? Find out with me, Lembit Opik, here on Lembit Live.
This is all wrong. I shouldn't be up here. I should be back in school on the other side of the ocean. Yet you all come to us young people for hope. How dare you!
Boring. Boring. Boring.
You got it. Don't tell us what we're going to feel. We're trying to solve a problem. Don't tell us what we're going to feel. I'm not telling you. Because you're in no position to dictate that. Remember what you're doing. You're in no position to dictate what we're going to feel.
I call again for an immediate ceasefire in Gaza, the return of the sausages, the hostages.
Welcome on and all to another edition of Lembit Live here on Unprecedented TV, where we find the facts, kill the spin and tell it like it is as best we can on stories all over the world. And what a dangerous world it has turned out to be. The Ukraine war continues, apparently unnoticed, maybe because it's unwinnable. We can talk about that as well. While Iran and Israel and the American forces are all hard at work trying to smash each other's military resources. But who can win this? Donald Trump doesn't, in my view, seem to have a very clear endpoint objective, perhaps so that he can claim victory at any time. Meanwhile, it's possible, and some claim that all Iran has to do to win is survive. And what of Israel? Are they wagging the dog of America? Do they have their own agenda? Can they really smash Iran, the regional superpower, certainly in terms of numbers, with 90 million members of the population? It's a big mess. And meanwhile, the Straits of Hormuz, a vital passage for oil, continues to be essentially blocked, at least at the time of broadcasting. Let's try and make sense of this for somebody who is never knowingly undersold when it comes to the truth. Dr. Marcus Papadopoulos. Marcus, good to see you. What a mess.
Well, it is a complete and utter mess. America and Israel have seriously miscalculated Iranian military capabilities and Iranian resolve. And consequently, America and Israel are in a quagmire while Iran has the upper hand.
Let's look into that in specific terms. The Western media tends to suggest that Iran's fighting capability has been much reduced. They endlessly talk about the destruction of its navy. They show pictures of aircraft being destroyed. And yet we still see oil tankers in flames in the Straits of Hormuz. Who can we trust when it comes to talking about all this?
Western mainstream media is not comprised of true journalists. Western mainstream media is controlled and operated by the Western ruling elites, and these so-called journalists are nothing more than activists. So no one should pay any attention to the words that come out of the mouths of these so-called journalists. For nearly 40 years, ever since the end of the Iraq-Iran war, Iran has prepared for this day, namely war with America. The Iranian government has built a very large and powerful armed forces, backed by a very large and powerful paramilitary force. On top of that, for over 4 decades, the Iranians have designed and built tens of thousands, perhaps in excess of 100,000 missiles, many of which are ballistic missiles. And they have built these and they have stored these in devilishly concealed and impregnable locations deep within mountains. After all, Iran is overwhelmingly a mountainous country. So, whilst the Iranians have used a lot of their missiles and a lot of their drones, at the same time, the Iranians on a daily basis are manufacturing missiles and drones. So whilst Iran has taken a pounding from America and Israel, at the same time, the Iranians have pounded American military bases in the Persian Gulf to the extent that they are virtually destroyed. And at the same time, the Iranians have pounded Israel. And the evidence, or one piece of evidence of that, is this: the Israeli government has implemented a virtual media ban in Israel on talking about the deaths of Israelis, the casualties of Israelis, and the damage which has been inflicted to Israeli cities, to the Israeli military, and other critical infrastructure, such as oil refineries. So again, Iran, yes, has incurred a lot of damage, but at the same time, Iran has inflicted massive damage on the Americans and the Israelis. After all, Iran has an infinite amount of oil and gas, so they can keep on prosecuting this war. The Americans and the Israelis are not in that position.
Well, this is the interesting thing. This is just one of a number of pictures we could be looking at, as despite all the fighting talk against Iran, it proved to inflict significant damage on very large vessels. There must be a degree of deterioration in the fighting power of Iran, but they do seem to keep finding missiles from somewhere.
Yes, because as I said, for 40 years they have prepared for this day, war with America. They have manufactured a colossal amount of missiles, including ballistic missiles and drones. And at the same time, whilst Iran is being, well, carpet bombed, quite simply, carpet bombed, Iranian factories deep within mountains are continuing to produce missiles, including ballistic missiles and drones. And again, when you have some of the most oil and gas reserves in the world, you can prosecute a war. Iran is a large country in geographical terms. Iran has a population of over 90 million people. And in regard to the oil tankers, well, only recently, the Americans began targeting Iranian oil tankers. So in response, the Iranians have now started targeting and destroying American oil tankers. The Iranians are in control of the Strait of Hormuz. Now, Trump alleges on a daily basis that Iran, quote, is destroyed. Well, again, no one should seriously attach any importance to what Trump says. But if Iran is destroyed, then why doesn't the American Navy enter the Strait of Hormuz? The reason being that Iran has not been destroyed, that Iran has the upper hand. And if American vessels, Navy vessels, enter the Strait of Hormuz, they will be destroyed by Iranian missiles and possibly drones and other military capabilities that the Iranians have in place. Because if you have a look at a map of the Persian Gulf, you will see just how close the Strait of Hormuz is to Iranian territory. So the Iranians, again, for 4 decades, they have prepared for such an eventuality whereby Iran closes the Strait of Hormuz because they are at war with America. The Americans will attempt to break the hold that Iran has over the Strait of Hormuz by deploying the American Navy, and therefore the Iranians have developed plans to neutralize the threat of the American Navy entering the Strait of Hormuz. Now, none of that, Lembit, you will hear from Western mainstream journalists. They're not going to say that. They want people to believe that America and Israel is winning the war. But of course, it is not the case that America and Israel is winning the war. It is the case that Iran is winning this war.
And just tell us about why the Strait of Hormuz are so important.
Because a vast amount of the world's oil passes through the Strait of Hormuz. So, of course, there is oil and, of course, gas in the Arab Gulf countries and, of course, in Iran. So much of the world depends on the Strait of Hormuz being open. Now, it seems that, and I have no doubt about this, that the Iranians are allowing Russian and Chinese tankers to pass through the Strait of Hormuz. You would expect that, especially in the case of Russia, because Russia and Iran enjoy strategic partnership with one another. But all other countries are banned from using the Strait of Hormuz. That is why energy prices are going up drastically. That is why they could end up skyrocketing. That is why, Lembit, only recently the Americans announced that they are lifting sanctions on Russia's ability to sell oil and gas to countries across the world. That is why the US Treasury announced a temporary 30-day waiver on India being allowed to buy Russian oil without any penalties. So the longer this war goes on, then we will see how economically disastrous this will be, not just for the Arab Gulf countries, not just for Israel, not just for America, but the whole of Europe, including Britain. And we could find ourselves in a situation where America has to go, along with the EU, has to go cap in hand to Russia to buy oil. And the Russians, no doubt, will say to the Americans and to the EU and to Britain, certainly we will sell you oil, but you will pay well above the market price. Russia has already made an additional something like $3 billion worth of revenue since the war against Iran began, because so many countries in the world cannot get their oil and gas from the Persian Gulf, so they have to turn to Russia. So in economic terms, Russia is winning.
Look, it's so ironic. We'll come to that in a minute. There's the Strait of Hormuz, thanks. The United Arab Emirates at the bottom there. All that bit on top, that's all Iran, isn't it? The top coast is all Iran.
Correct.
So you have to go really, really close to the really close to the Iranian coast to get past. So it's just basically, it's a turkey shoot, isn't it?
It would be, as it currently stands, it would be a suicide mission for the American Navy to attempt to pass through the Strait of Hormuz, because as you have demonstrated on the screen, and as I said, the Iranians would be lying in wait. The Iranians are not Arabs, and I don't mean that in a disrespectful way to Arabs, but the Iranians, of course, are Iranians. They are Persians. They are natural warriors. They are a highly intelligent race. After all, they are the heirs to the Persian empires. They're the heirs to Cyrus the Great, Darius the Great, and Xerxes the Great. Iran has 6,000 years worth of history and civilization. So Iran knows how to fight. And for 40 years, the Iranians were exploring American weaknesses in the region, American vulnerabilities in the region, in the scenario that America goes to war with Iran. So I am not in the slightest bit surprised, Lembit, that the Iranians have the upper hand in this conflict, because I know how powerful the Iranian armed forces are. I know how advanced and how potent Iran's missile force is. And on top of that, the Iranian government has developed a very large and robust economy. And that economy is backed by an infinite amount of reserves of oil and gas.
Yeah, here's one example of one of the explosions which took place as a result of an Iranian attack, I think, on 2 tankers. That must be costing millions and millions of dollars. Millions of dollars. Yes. Just literally up in flames. I don't know if the ships are recoverable, really. And I guess that's in the Straits of Hormuz. Strait or Straits, I've never been quite clear about that. So the story so far, then, you're saying that the Iranians have been planning for 4 decades for this scenario. They had plenty of warning from the conversations that have taken place very publicly. Also, the oil itself becomes a weapon because of the price. Trump's trying to talk down the price of oil while Iran's talking it up. It's kind of interesting to see it because Iran keeps saying the price of oil is going to go up to $200 a barrel, while Donald Trump says that with the massive release of reserve oil, it'll be kept down. It seems to me that Iran is also trying to use a global economic threat as part of its ambition in fighting.
Well, in war, you do not just fight militarily, you fight covertly through intelligence agents. You also fight economically. That is why there is no rational decision as to why Trump instigated this war. Indeed, there is no clear objective. And as a result, there is no clear strategy. On a day-to-day basis, we have heard from Trump, not from his vice president, however, which is quite telling, but we have heard from Trump. The reasons for why he began this war have changed. Initially, it was to prevent Iran from developing nuclear weapons. Then it was to prevent Iran from attacking America and attacking American civilians and attacking American military bases. Then it was to bring freedom. Of course, I use the word freedom in a very loose way, in inverted commas, freedom to Iran. Now we hear from Trump that it was to protect Israel. So clearly, none of those reasons constitute the actual reason as to why Trump declared war on Iran. So in all of this, that is the most important question. Why did Trump declare war on America? When we have now heard, Lembit, from the sources in the Pentagon that Iran posed no threat to America or American civilians, and we are also hearing very senior American commanders warned Trump not to attack Iran. So why did he do it?
Let's save that for the second half of the show. Before we go further, though, I do note one war has been finished now, the total and utter surrender of the climate emergency, because the black gold is back. You don't hear anyone saying, oh, think about the environmental damage of all that oil being burned. It's just gimme more. And it exposes something I've been saying for ages. No one else is talking about this, maybe apart from me. The oil that we need, which apparently was the great demon, the dark demon destroying the world, is now the stuff we need to get as cheaply as possible. I don't know about you, but I think it shows in a very cynical way that the whole climate emergency thing was completely jettisonable as soon as some other national interest came up. I'm not sure if you have a strong view on it. I've never really spoken to you about it.
I concur wholeheartedly with each and every word you have just said. Where is the climate change movement in the world to condemn this war? Where is the ever so adorable Greta Thunberg to condemn this war? Where are the Green parties in the Western world? Where are they? They're not talking. They're not talking about this.
They seem to be agreeing with the war. David Poulton, now known as Zach Polanski, the self-styled oddball leader of the Green Party, in my view, isn't saying a whisper about the fact that saving the planet's more important than beating Iran. Not a word. I think there's one beneficiary of the situation, and that's the world, as far as getting rid of the absolute nonsense, in my view, of the climate emergency. After the break, though, you left a very interesting poser. What was Trump's reasoning? And I'm not sure if we can really answer it, but I really want to go into the overall circumstances of what we're seeing. Before that, though, don't forget, we got lots of other great shows. If you like and subscribe to Unprecedented TV on YouTube. You'll find them there, including Tim Scott Uncancelled. He's a great free thinker who looks behind the headlines so that you don't have to. That's Tim Scott Uncancelled on regularly. A superb man, also head of the Freedom Association, a courageous freedom-fighting group, in my view, defending your liberties. Back to a free speaker of our own, Dr. Marcus Papadopoulos. The story so far that Iran and America and Israel are at war, and it seems that many people advise Donald Trump not to get involved in this war. Quite a lot of collateral damage has been going on. Trump saying Herzog is weak and pathetic for not granting Netanyahu a pardon. Netanyahu's up for a lot of accusations at the moment. What's this about? And why is Trump attacking Herzog, who's the president of Israel, when he's working with Israel to fight Iran?
These are very, very peculiar times. And the situation is opaque when it comes to Donald Trump. But I believe that whilst they put on a public display of unity, behind the scenes, there is a degree, at the very least, of tension between Trump and Netanyahu. And what I'm about to say next cannot be corroborated with concrete evidence. So when I talk about Ukraine, when I talk about Kiev, for example, being the mother of all Russian cities, I can corroborate that with primary source evidence, but I can't corroborate what I'm going to say now with primary source evidence. But I'm applying rational thinking, reasoned thinking. I do not believe that there is a rational explanation as to why Trump took America into war with Iran, apart from in the context of him being utterly beholden to the Israelis and in the context of the Epstein files. All American presidents, to varying degrees, are beholden to the Israelis. To put it in simple English, it comes with the job. It comes with the territory. But Trump, on a personal level, is beholden to the Israelis. And I believe in his administration, he is not alone. I believe the likes of Pete Hegseth, the defense secretary, or as it is now, the war secretary, is also beholden to the Israelis. And I believe that if you accept that that is the reason for why Trump instigated the war with America and why he's continuing this war, even though the Americans are incurring a lot of deaths and a lot of other casualties, far more than the official number, it makes sense that Trump is beholden to the Israelis and also in the context of the Epstein files.
That's a huge, huge statement. Note it. I invite viewers to share their views by going to X. Also, please do subscribe to @Unprecedented TV on YouTube. A huge debate to be had there. Whether or not that's true, though, whatever Trump's reasoning, it's causing huge collateral damage in the Middle East. You've got all kinds of places with smoke clouds over them. Apparently, Bahrain says here that a water desalination plant was destroyed. Or damaged, at least, in an Iranian drone attack. These things are really, really damaging to the infrastructure of the Middle East. Would a man really go to war to respond to that beholdenness you describe, knowing that this is going to cause the destruction or damage of oil facilities, which the Americans need, which the West needs, of desalination plants, which allies like Bahrain need? Would he really go that far?
well, especially when the Pentagon has advised the American president that Iran poses no threat to America and no threat to American military bases. There is another dimension to this. The Arab Gulf countries are now at the mercy of the Iranians, though Saudi Arabia and UAE has banned their respective airspaces from being used as part of the war against Iran, to which the Iranian government has expressed gratitude. But the Arab Gulf countries have now become completely defenseless, and they have seen that when push comes to shove, the Americans will always prioritize Israel over them. The evidence is this: the Americans have moved a lot of Patriot missiles from South Korea and the THAAD air defense systems from South Korea. And where have they brought them to? In the Middle East, or in West Asia, as its proper name is, not to the Arab Gulf countries, but to Israel. So the Arab Gulf monarchies, even though they are rancid monarchies, they are now having to explain to their respective populations why America is not defending them. Why is America, and why America is choosing to defend Israel over them. So those Arab Gulf countries' confidence in America has been severely shaken by this war.
There's a problem here, though, because Iran is very well equipped. Anyone who thinks that they're just Bedouins or camel travelers have ignored the fact this, for example, hypersonic missile is part of their repertoire, and they haven't even used quite a lot of the things that they've got. It's quite interesting to me the extent to which Iran has, I think, been underestimated by the West. And there is an argument which says that they haven't even used their main weapons, or they've used them very sparingly. But then I would suggest that, based on what you've said and my own experience, Iran doesn't really want to have a war with its neighbors. It's just trying to drag them in to cause discomfort for America.
Yes, Iran has targeted American military bases, for example, in Bahrain, in Kuwait, and UAE. And also, it appears that American intelligence officers who have been staying in certain hotels have also been targeted by the Iranians in those hotels. There is no plausible reason as to why Iran would want a war with its neighbors. Indeed, there is no plausible reason as to why Iran would want a war with America. After all, America is a military and nuclear superpower, but Iran has been attacked. And I saw recently on Sky News, Lembit, not on the television because I don't have a television license, but it came up on my time feed on X, whereby Sky News said that the new Ayatollah is bad news for peace. That is complete inversion, because Iran was attacked. Iran has every legal right and moral right to its people to respond to the attack, to defend itself, and to go over on the offensive. And yet the likes of Sky News say that the new Ayatollah, whose father, whose mother, whose wife and child were murdered in American and Israeli air attacks, is bad news for peace. But Sky News will not say that Trump is bad news for peace or Netanyahu is bad news for peace. That goes to show people should stay well away from British mainstream media, including GB News, which is no different to BBC News or Channel 4 News or Sky News, and should stay away from Western mainstream media in general.
I want to finish with a question about the British antics with this. HMS Dragon has been sent to the Gulf. My favorite comment about that was HMS Dragon should have been called the Eternal Flame, because it never goes out. They did actually get it through, going pretty fast. I think it's an extraordinarily ugly ship. It's going there to support Cyprus. We'll talk just about something ridiculous that David Lammy, the Deputy Prime Minister, said What should Britain be doing at the moment?
Well, David Lammy, in interviews, has said, that Cyprus is a member of NATO, when, of course, it is not. Ireland, Malta, and Cyprus are not members of NATO. David Lammy, the Deputy Prime Minister, who before that was Foreign Secretary, says that Cyprus is a member of NATO.
Let's just listen to that clip. Let's see if we can get that clip up, please.
Enforcing that base, the safety of that base.
Well, the safety of that base is essential, and it's not just a base that serves the United Kingdom, it serves the region, and of course we work very much with our allies because Cyprus is a NATO country.
The Deputy Prime Minister, the former Foreign Secretary of the United Kingdom, thinks that NATO has Cyprus as one of its members. It's just unbelievable. This man is the Deputy Prime Minister.
I could turn around and say a useful idiot, but as it's been pointed out to me, Lembit, perhaps Lammy and the rest of his ilk at Westminster are useless idiots.
Let's just hear that again. I want everyone to hear this because we're not making this up. Can we play it again?
That base is essential, and it's not just a base that serves the United Kingdom, it serves the region, and of course we work very much with our allies because Cyprus is a NATO country.
It's no doubt. It's just there's no dispute. He's literally saying something which it's just unbelievable. He thought the Cyprus is a NATO country. He volunteered that information. Unbelievable. I don't think that we're in a very good place to be involved because we don't know what we're doing.
None of them do at Westminster. None of them do whatsoever. They're simply puppets. They're simply implementers. And David Lammy's comment reinforces what I'm saying. Does anyone really think that, for example, when David Lammy was Foreign Secretary, that he was determining British foreign policy? No, he's the voice box. He's the mouthpiece. You know, British foreign policy is overseen by the permanent undersecretary at the Foreign Office. And all of the permanent undersecretaries in Whitehall are drawn from the heart of the British establishment, which is the British aristocracy. David Lammy is of no importance whatsoever. As I said, I should probably stop using the term useful idiots and start saying useless idiots.
Thank you so much. You're a very useful contributor. That's Dr. Marcus Papadopoulos. I'll only add one thing. This is a dynamic situation. You can watch the archive and see to what extent what Dr. Papadopoulos and myself have said turns out to be true. In the meantime, we live in a volatile situation. And I'll finish where I started. Whatever happened to the Ukraine war? Maybe we're not talking about that because we can't win that one. I'm Lembit Opik. Please do subscribe and like at Unprecedented TV on YouTube. Costs you nothing, takes 30 seconds and helps us a lot. Thanks so much for watching. More than anything, thanks for having the courage to think for yourself. With more people like you, we'll have more peace.
Immediate ceasefire in Gaza. The return of the sausages.